Hello everyone, this is Professor Nilesh Kale and I am taking your class Company Law and Administration. In this video we are going to learn about brief history. Right? So there was a company already in India which was functioning, which was registered by the Britishers itself, and the name of the company was East India Company, whose headquarters was in Calcutta, but business headquarters were situated all over India, including Mumbai to Delhi and in Puducherry. Right? So the first Companies Act was passed in 1850. This was for the purpose of making good administration. But in 1913, more comprehensive and consolidated act was passed, because this act, 1850s act, was very much descriptive, and then consolidation was needed over there, and then more comprehensive because it also included different sectors. But in 1936, major amendments were made to the existing act. This is due to the Second World War. Right? So after independence, Company Law Committee, there was a committee called Company Law Committee, and the name of that committee was Bhabha Committee. Right? That was appointed, which submitted its report in March 1952. In March 1952, Bhabha Committee submitted its report saying that these are the changes that we require in companies law. Based on its recommendations, which was given in the report, Companies Act 1956 was passed. It started its effect from 1st April 1956 itself. So 1st April 1956 onwards, we had Companies Act 1956. Several amendments were made until 2012 to the existing act. So since 1956 to 2012, there were so many other revolutions happening in different sectors. But the company which was registered in the Companies Act 1956 had to follow all the provisions which was given in Companies Act 1956. But several amendments, after making several amendments, the Companies Act 1956 became a burdensome, because that was very much complex, and also it did not have included the new provisions which could facilitate and foster the faster development of new companies, which is based on the digital era. And therefore New Companies Act was passed in 2013. So New Companies Act also includes all the digital requirements of the Companies Act. Right? So this is the difference between Companies Act 1956 and Companies Act 2013. Indian Companies Act 2013 has fewer sections than Companies Act 1956. Earlier it had 658 sections. Look at this table. Earlier we had 658 sections, but now we have 470. So 2013 Act is more consolidated act, and also it is more comprehensive than 1956. So the latest is better always. Earlier we had 13 parts in 1956 Act, but in this Act we do not have any parts, but we have chapters which are which is increased. Earlier we had only 26, now we have 29. We have spoken about sections and about schedules. Earlier we had 15 schedules, and now we have only 7. So to understand this Act, it is easier than the earlier Act. But 1956 Act is more mature than 2013. It is because we had more discussions on this Act, and many cases have been fought, and therefore many more clarification is available in this Act. But in 2013 Act, which is very much new, all those clarifications and previous experiences included in 2013 Act, and therefore we have this latest Act more, and several amendments are also being made to this Act 2013. Recently, Companies Act to the 2020 Amendment Act 2020 has also been passed in the Parliament, and therefore this is the Act that we are following. So what are the key highlights in the new Act? Class action suits for shareholders. So there was earlier we did not have the class action of the shareholders, but in 2013 Act we have the concept of class action, which suits with a view of making shareholders and other stakeholders more informed and knowledgeable about their rights. So earlier there were different classes of shareholders and classes of stakeholders. They did not have the powers we used to consider all shareholders as one, but now we also have the classes of shareholders and classes of stakeholders which are considered differently, right? But the powers and rights remain the same. More power to shareholders. In this act, more powers have been given to the shareholders because they are the owners. And in the New Companies Act, we also have women empowerment in the corporate sector, right? In the Companies Act 2013 stipulates appointment of at least one woman director in the board, right? So if there is a board of director of 15 members, there is a need that at least one woman director must be there. At least one such director who is a woman must be included in that composition. And now corporate social responsibility about CSR. Companies Act 2013 gives more focus on CSR because every corporates have responsibility towards its society, and that is where we are learning about the CSR. And then NCLT and NCLT about National Company Law Tribunal and National Company Law Appellate Tribunal have more powers. Also, they would relieve the courts of their burden. Our courts are very much burdensome already, but giving more workload to NCLT and NCLT will relieve the burdens of courts. Now courts have lesser burden, and NCLT and NCLT have more burden. Fast track mergers. So merging and amalgamating a company was a difficult task earlier, but in the new Act 2013, all the mergers and amalgamations become very easy. Such as holding company and subsidiary company. Holding company, if it acquires the subsidiary company, the procedure is very much minimal and it becomes very fast process. And then cross-border mergers. Cross-border merger can also happen where foreign company is merging with Indian company. Earlier we required the permission of RBI. Today also we require the permission of RBI, but the process is very easy now, right? And prohibition on forward dealing and insider trading. Earlier forward dealings and insider tradings were very much easy and that was followed very frequently, but in the Companies Act 2013, insider trading is completely prohibited and forward dealings are also prohibited. The meaning of this is you cannot trade within the company without the knowledge of others. If you are a public limited company, you should educate the people. You should educate the common people about all the transactions that you are doing. Why common people? Because if they are the shareholders, if they are the shareholders or stakeholders, you should inform them. And therefore, we also have already given more powers to the shareholders. So increase in number of shareholders. Earlier, in a private company, we had 50 members limit, but now we have 200 members limit, right? Maximum shareholders, that is the member we are speaking about. Now the private company may have 200 members maximum. And speaking about the public limited company, there is no upper limit. I repeat, there is no maximum limit for a public limited company upon being its members, right? Limit on maximum partners. When we are speaking about the partners, we also speak about the Partnership Act 1932. So maximum 50 partners can be there, right? But let us read what happened here in the Companies Act. The maximum number of persons or partners in any association or partnership may be up to such number as may be prescribed, but not exceeding 100. As of now, we have 50 members, which is prescribed in the Partnership Act. This restriction will not apply to an association or partnership constituted by professionals like lawyers, chartered accountants, company secretaries, etc., right, who are governed by their special laws. Lawyers have their special laws, chartered accountants, they have their own special law, company secretary, they have their own special law. ICAI Act we have, ICSI Act we have. That is what we are speaking about, right? And then under the Companies Act 1956, there was a maximum limit of 20 persons earlier, but this limit is taken away. And about OPC, one person company, Companies Act 2013 provides new form of private company, that is OPC, one person company. This was not there earlier. There can be only one person who can register the company in the name of OPC. It may have only one director and one shareholder. We still call it as one person company, because one shareholder is one person, one member. That is what we are speaking about. There can be one director also as well. Both these persons can be different. Now, if these both persons are different, then who is that one person in the OPC? The shareholder. The shareholder is the owner, and that is the person who is registering OPC, and he is the only shareholder. He cannot transfer it. Right? We will learn more about OPC later in the class. Companies Act 1956 requires minimum 2 shareholders and 2 directors in case of private company. Earlier in 1956 there was a requirement of minimum 2 shareholders, but in Companies Act 2013 minimum 1 director, minimum 1 shareholder is enough to form a company OPC. Entrenchment in Articles of Association. The Companies Act 2013 provides for entrenchment, that is, apply extra legal safeguards of Articles of Association have been introduced. So extra legal safeguards, earlier we did not have this about Articles of Association, but now we have this. Entrenchment means applying extra legal safeguards. It means Articles of Association is more limited to fewer people. In other words, very few people can have access to Articles of Association now in 2013's Act, but earlier that was considered as a almost, not 100%, but almost a public document, and it was open to all. Electronic mode. The Companies Act 2013 proposed e-governance for various company processes like maintenance and inspection of documents in electric form, and option of keeping of books of accounts in electronic form, financial statements to be placed on company's website, etc. So electronic mode is facilitated in 2013 Act. That is what I was discussing about. 1956 Act did not have anything which could facilitate in the electronic mode of maintaining the document or processing it. But in 2013 Act, we have that provision where electronic mode of administration is possible. And then Indian resident as director. Every company shall have at least one director who has stayed in India for a total period of not less than 182 days in the previous calendar year. In the Income Tax Act, the definition of a resident person is given, but for your easy understanding, 182 days is as good as 6 months. The person who has lived in India and citizen of India and who has lived for more than 6 months in the previous calendar year, he is considered as resident person, and that person is eligible to be called as a director, right? And then independent directors. The Companies Act 2013 provides that all the limited companies should have at least 1/3 of the board as independent directors. Such other class or classes of public company as may be prescribed by the central government shall also be required to appoint independent directors. No independent director shall hold office for more than 2 consecutive terms of 5 years. So concept of independent directors was focused more in 2013 Act, and it says that at least 1/3. So out of 9 people, at least 3 people would be called as independent directors who have no direct relationship with the company, right? Or as may be prescribed by the government. This is 1/3 or as may be prescribed. And such independent directors shall not hold the office for more than 2 consecutive terms of 5 years. Consecutive means continue. So first 5 years one person can continue, second 5 years the same person can continue, but not for the third, fifth year, right? And then serving notice of the board meeting. Companies Act 2013 requires at least 7 days of notice to call the board meeting. At least 7 days. So earlier that was 21 days. The notice may be sent by electronic means, through email or through WhatsApp or through SMS. Electronic means you can send the message or the notice the way you are convenient to every director at his address registered with the company. So at his address which is registered with the company, notice of board meeting shall be given, right? So this is about key highlights of Companies Act 2013. The other things are like duties of directors defined. Under the Companies Act 1956, a director had fiduciary relationship. So what do you mean by fiduciary? Legal or ethical relationship of trust. Like a teacher and a student have fiduciary relationship, because student have trust in the teacher, that teacher is teaching the true thing, the correct thing. So that is called as fiduciary relationship, either legal or the ethical relationship of trust. So the duties of director and the shareholder, the relationship between between the director and the shareholder is a fiduciary relationship, and also director towards the company is also a fiduciary relationship. Company has faith in directors. I repeat, company have faith in the director's powers, director's conscience, right? So however, the Companies Act 2013 has defined the duties of the director. However, this act has defined the duties of director, but more than this, the director have other duties, responsibilities towards the company, because it has fiduciary relationship. Liability on directors and officers. The Companies Act 2013 does not restrict an Indian company from indemnifying. Indemnifying means compensate for harm or loss. Indemnifying for its directors and officers, like Companies Act 1956. Now what do you mean by this? I repeat, 2013 Act, the new act does not restrict an Indian company from indemnifying its directors. So what it says, if you are directly liable, if you are a director and if you are directly liable for any harm or loss which is made to the company, if you are directly liable, then you are liable, not the directors, right? So lifting of corporate veil, we will discuss more about this in the concept called lifting of corporate veil. We will see what it is, right? This point also goes in line with the characteristic called separate legal entityship, right? So rotation of auditors. The new act provides for rotation of auditors and audit firms in case of publicly traded companies. So rotation of director and audit firms is possible, and it is compulsory under this act. It also prohibits the auditors from performing non-audit services. If the auditor is doing any non-audit service, such thing should be avoided. Such thing are not given any permission. It is prohibited in the new Companies Act. Rehabilitation and liquidation process. The entire rehabilitation and liquidation process of the companies in financial crisis have been made time bound under the Companies Act 2013. So liquidation and rehabilitation must be done within the given time, and therefore you cannot cross the time limit because it is time bound in the Companies Act 2013. Earlier there was no such provision, right? So that's all about key highlights of Companies Act 2013. We'll see other provisions in the next video. Your comments are very much valuable. Do comment if you are understanding these kind of videos, or if you want any other method of teaching, please let us know, right? See you in next video. Thank you.